Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Female Edge webinar series. As you know, every 2 weeks, we bring a guest on the show to talk about an aspect of career or leadership or female advancement or anything that can actually help you live a great life. I'm Mary Maguire, and I'm the author of The Female Edge. And I'm really delighted today to be joined by Sarah Foster, who is herself a very inspiring and award-winning businesswoman. And she's also the author of an interesting book, which I thought it would be great for you to hear more about today. So Sarah, we have worked a bit together. I've worked with you in your organisation. We've got to know each other through our respective books. But I'd love for you to tell people a little bit more about yourself, your background, and what you do.
Hi Mary, and hi everyone. Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I'm delighted to be here. The first thing I want to share about myself actually is that I have a 3-year-old Labrador. I'm working from home today and he's in the same room as me. So I want to get that in nice and early because, as is typical of these such events, you know, likelihood is I'll get some parcel deliveries and he'll start barking in the background. So I just wanted to let everyone know that first. But yeah, my name is Sarah Foster. I am the managing director of a medium-sized business, Comply Direct. We are an environmental consultancy and produce a compliance scheme, multi-million pound turnover. We employ close to 40 employees now and look after the legal obligations and non-sort of mandatory environmental aspirations of some of the UK's largest businesses, over 1,000 businesses that we work with, but also small startups as well, and everything in between. And as you mentioned, in 2020, I published my first book, Dabba Do It, which is all about inspiring a generation of confidence, really, in others and sharing some of the tips, hacks, tools, frameworks, whatever you want to call them, that have really served me well throughout my career over the last 20 years or so.
And I just wanted to build on a few things you do there. You are the managing director of a medium-sized business that works in sustainability and compliance in that area. But it's also, you are an award-winning managing director and your company is award-winning. And as somebody who's worked in it briefly, helped really inspired by a culture that you have there of certainly a culture of belonging, but encouragement, of motivation. You really find a way of helping people to find their sweet spot of what they really enjoy doing and then encourage them to do even more of that. So really highly motivated, engaged workforce as well, which was really inspiring to see.
Yes, yeah, and I'm very lucky at Comply Direct. You know, we do have an extremely passionate workforce who continually indulge the senior management team in our ideas of grandeur to quite often, you know, be better and bigger than we are. So yeah, we won the best growing SME at the Woman Who Awards last year, and we've won numerous awards for our high performance culture, well-being in the workplace, and also we won the best place to work as well, beating the likes of Microsoft, dare I say it, to the coveted awards. So yeah, we constantly strive to do better and be better every day.
And I think that's what, I mean, there's lots of reasons why you're an inspiring guest, but one of them is because you really are a leader who walks the walk. You really passionately believe not only in the nature of what your business is about, but also about the people in it and really helping them to strive to be better every day. Yeah, it's really lovely. And knowing how busy you are, knowing, you know, how demanding your job is, how many people you have to look after, you know, in your organization, how many clients you have to think about and your growth opportunities, you then found the time to write your book, Yabba Dabba Do It. So I'd like to hear first, what was the motivation behind writing the book? And then we can get into what the book actually covers.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of reverse mentoring. So I have to say the true inspiration for the book came from my children, who are now 21 and 17, and was gestating for years, probably since they were at primary school. And I observed the way that they interacted and how they started to think about their hopes and dreams for the future. And I've been quite lucky over the years. I've been exposed to numerous really strong mentors who've helped me out along the way, male and female, and who've championed me. And I really wanted to pull together those experiences that have helped me into a very easy to understand guide, if you like, that could be adaptable to anyone, whether you consider yourself to have a low confidence level or a high or somewhere in between. Pull together those frameworks that are useful and that you can keep coming back to, really to inspire a generation to challenge the status quo. Because one of the things I've observed in the age of things like this, social media, and us all being a bit more visible, and there perhaps being more comparison between one another, I think that's something that youngsters coming through into the workplace really need to be aware of. So Yabba Dabba Do It was all about giving the next generation some tools to challenge the status quo, which I think we need to do right now. We're living in times of lots of uncertainty, and I think that you can tackle uncertainty head on if you've got the confidence to do so. Oh, see, there's the dog
Leo
barking, and I said he would. Yeah, there's Leo. Apologies,
getting involved.
everyone. Yeah.
Now he's reinforcing the point. He's agreeing with you.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, he's an advocate of confidence. He too wants to inspire a generation.
And obviously the name is a bit of an unusual name, but it came out of a particular well-known figure from the animation world. So tell us a bit about the title.
Yeah, that's right. So, and I should add that my kids hated that and said, "Oh, you're not going to call it that, are you? How embarrassing!" But Yabba Dabba Do It is a play on the premise, really, that our brains are wired to keep us safe and not happy. I'm convinced of that. I'm a fan of psychology. I studied psychology, and it fascinates me how the human mind is wired. And in prehistoric times, when Fred and Wilma Flintstone were around, that was perhaps more useful than it is today. So, in times past, there were real and present dangers. If you stepped outside of your cave, you might get eaten by a bear, and your brain was wired to protect you against that. But because the world we live in today has evolved, I think, at a pace faster than our neurological pathways have, we sometimes try and keep ourselves safe from danger that isn't really present. And when we start to peel back the layers and look, at whether we are at risk, we're perhaps not, but we're still operating from a place of fear.
Yeah, it's very true. It's that thing where you can't tell the danger between I'm 5 minutes late to a meeting, as opposed to there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing me down the road. We can't make the distinction between them, can we? That's part of the issue.
Yeah, that's right. And, the Flintstones was incredibly successful, and it really displayed that juxtaposition of modern day issues and problems with prehistoric ways of dealing with them. So I thought that was quite a nice way of packaging up that point and hammering home that point that actually, quite often when we feel uncomfortable or like there is danger present, there isn't. and we need to remind ourselves of that.
Yeah. And before we go into the actual 3 steps of your model around confidence building, I was just going to talk about this story that you start off with. Is what you recognise is that there was confidence built into you as a child, and that you were somebody who was very outgoing and would just go and do things without really worrying about them too much. And you gave a lovely story of when there was the Radio 1 live roadshow, and you jumped on the stage and were playing, I don't know, a blow-up guitar or an air guitar on there.
Yeah.
At a very, very young age, and you didn't even blink at the idea of it. There was nothing about it that you felt was beyond your ability. It was just something you would naturally do.
Yeah. And the irony of that story, it was a Radio 1 roadshow back in the 80s. And the other people that got on stage, it was a competition, I think, to win a Radio 1 car sticker. So not much of a prize on offer. But the other people who got up on the stage were a lot older than me. You know, they were teenagers or in their early 20s, and wanted to give a rock star performance. And I just slipped away from my mum, much to her horror, got straight to the front because I thought, I can do that. You know, I want to be on the stage with the other performers and be a pop star. So yeah, that's something that actually I use as my anchor. So when I get times of doubt, and I do, because we all do, and feel the fear, you know, I think back, and that little girl who did that is still me. So I harness her when I need to bring her forward for certain situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll go into that, be your own bestie, which is one of the things in your book. But tell us a bit about this 3-step process and how people might use that.
Yeah, so I wanted to pull something together that was easy to understand, at least. Whether it's easy to execute depends on where you are in your journey, but easy and simple and a bit of a guide, but also adaptable. So it's 3 steps, but it's really it's cyclical as well. So it's 3 steps that you'll go round and round, hopefully in a circle with. So the 3 steps are prepare, do, and review. So prepare is all about mindset. And that's the largest section of the book, because that's the thing that you need to get right really before you can progress any further. So there's some tools in there. One that works really well for me is visualization. So I've found over the years that's been really helpful. There's journaling, there's taking inspiration from other people or other situations, like I've just mentioned, a situation that might have happened to you that you've forgotten about, and really setting yourself up for success, both mentally and physically. So we do talk about how you can prepare yourself physically, such as, you know, smiling, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep. That is all important in terms of getting your mindset right to overcome any challenges, to be or do whatever you want in life. So preparation's the key, first of all. And once you've put thought into that and done that, the second bit is to just go and do it. And there's a little story I can tell, which isn't in the book actually, about to sort of describe doing it is just literally that. So once you've got your mindset right, you need to set a date and a time that you're going to go and execute on whatever you've pledged to yourself that you want to, for whatever reason, you know, and you'll hopefully in the prepare stage you'll have a strong why for that. And it's about just doing it. So it might be, you know, if you're training for a marathon and you want to go to the gym every morning, make sure the gym bag is by the door, make sure your keys are where, you know, so you eliminate any thought. So preparation is all about thinking, getting the mindset, doing, forget the thought, don't think at all, you'll procrastinate. So get rid of the thought. And the story that I like to use to sort of symbolize this is I love theme parks, but I am also scared of rides. So whenever I go to a theme park, or when I used to, when we were allowed to go to theme parks, hopefully I will again soon, I would always make sure I got there early so there were no queues, and I'd go to the biggest, fastest, scariest roller coaster first and get on that without even thinking when there's no queue. And by doing that, I set my whole day of fun up, because if I'd have got there and thought about it and built up to it, I might not have ridden that roller coaster, but to get the best out of my day. So that's the do part. And then the review is really quite similar to the evaluate in your edge model from your book, Mary, The Female Edge. So I'm a huge fan of data. I think the world that we live in today, data is synonymous with us achieving what we want to achieve and getting knowledge. And I think we oftentimes ignore very valuable data that we can download ourselves. So review is about looking at what you've done, how you prepared yourself for it and what happened, and then using that review process to do better next time. So if you've stepped out of your comfort zone and, I don't know, gone and done a big presentation or gone for a promotion, you know, there should only be two outcomes from that in the review stage. It should either be, how wonderful, I'll congratulate myself because everything went exactly as I wanted it to, and I can build on that and learn from it. Or it should be, well done to me for having a go. There were some things that didn't quite play out as I'd anticipated they would, but that's valuable. How can we address that so that we
Yeah.
can build on that for next time?
Mm.
So your review should always be a positive experience.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, there's so much packed into that, into your model, in the plan, the do, and the review. There was a few very powerful tools you mentioned, which I talk about a lot. One of them is visualization. So again, I know you've got a number of examples in the book of, if you're preparing for a presentation or an important meeting, visualize that meeting going well and everything you want to get out of that meeting, or everything you want to bring to that meeting. Visualize that before you go into the situation, and that's a really powerful tool, and one I encourage a lot of people to use, because you've already pre-programmed your brain and your mind to work in a certain way even before you're in the situation and under the pressure the situation brings. So I know that's a really powerful one. So you obviously must use that a lot anyway.
Yeah, have done for years. And I will journal on that. So I'll write things down. I'll write down the outcomes I want from certain things, or I might use post-it notes just to remind me if I was driving to a meeting. In the early days, I used to be on the road a lot. In the early days of my career, I used to stick post-it notes on my visor, my sun visor in the car, just to remind me why I was doing what I was doing, and the outcome that I expected or anticipated. And it really helps focus your behaviours and your actions towards achieving that outcome.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're sort of like pre-programming yourself, aren't you? So it's a really, really powerful thing to do. And then in the do bit, I think you used a really good example of the gym there, but it could be for anything. Is once you've made a decision to do it, is just have everything prepared so that you're not having to think about it and work out what steps you need to do it. You're just ready to do it when the opportunity comes.
Yeah.
So that having the bag ready by the door, having the keys by the door, having your presentation ready if it's your presentation, taking all of the distractions out the way that might be there before you're actually going into an important conversation, so you're just ready for it, and there's nothing else that can stop you from doing what you've planned yourself to do.
Yeah. And have some techniques for if you do have a little delay. So there's an example, common example is going for a job interview. You're probably going to have to sit in reception. So you can set up your do, and you can know what outfit you're going to wear and how you're going to get there, and a backup plan for the train's late, or, you can have all that set up, and then you arrive and the receptionist says, could you sit there for a minute? We're not quite ready for you. It's having some techniques ready for that moment when, I wonder if the candidate before me has got more experience. And when all these things start downloading, that you can say, thanks very much. I appreciate you trying to keep me safe, brain, but that's not helpful right now. We're here. I'm confident in my abilities. We're going to do a really good job. Or, so that's talking to yourself is one example. Another might be to have a breathing technique that, you use, or a little mind game even that you can just distract away, whatever works for you. And all of the tips are kind of adaptable depending on your style and your personality and what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah. But it's all about keeping yourself in that place of, I know I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let anything distract me, and doing everything you can to get yourself into that space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then the review stage, and I'll talk a bit more about that from a female perspective in a moment. But again, with that, when we look at things, when we review things, when we use data, and there's lots of ways we can use find data and use data. Some of it is simple stuff, like you mentioned, journaling. Sometimes journaling can be a really, really powerful way of actually just checking data about what's going on for me. So the one about the interview is, if we journaled before an interview about what we're expecting, how we're going to prepare, then we journal the day of the interview, and then we journal, the day we get the response, whether it's in our favour or not. And then maybe a month later, go back to that journal and have a look at it. That in itself has really, really important data for us. So data it doesn't have to be hard data where we have to go and crunch lots of numbers. that might be what we do, but sometimes the data can be from all sorts of places. But the difficulty a lot of people find is going back and reviewing something when it didn't go their way, without falling into that negative mind loop of, negative a voice saying that's typical, why did you think you'd get it, you're never gonna achieve this, all the things that our negative mind chatter can suddenly fill as a space when things don't go our way. So what are the ways that people can have a review of things without that happening?
Yeah, so it's not easy, because we will take things personally, and I think it's a skill. You just have to practice it. You have to build that muscle of being objective. But I'm a huge believer of, and I'm living proof actually, that when things don't go your way, it's because there's something better. And I could give you multiple examples, down to, the house I live in. We lost out on a dream house years ago. I was devastated. It was the end of the world. We got outbid. But because of that turn of events, not long later, I actually got something better in a better area, nearer to better schools for the kids. And the same with jobs. There's been opportunities that I've lost out on, that I thought I was a shoo-in for, only for 6 months down the line, something much more appropriate, exciting, exhilarating's come along, and I've thought, that's why. So I think a lot of it has to do with belief, and just remaining sort of optimistic that everything's a learn, everything's an experience, and that has value, and just trusting that if it's not gone well, it's because there's something better, and there is.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think that gets easier with age, is my experience of it. But because when you're younger, it's, your early knockbacks are really, really devastating, and they feel harder to get over. But the more you have life experience of things, I think the easier it becomes to put them into a perspective of, oh, that didn't go my way, and there's a reason for that, and there might be something else that'll play out. But even saying that, I think it's interesting. I was listening to a webinar from another inspirational speaker today, and he was saying about putting his faith into, something outside himself. And I think that, we, not necessarily from a religious context, but if we put our faith in that there's something greater than ourselves that is always playing out around us in our life. And if we have put all of our effort into achieving something and it didn't go our way, it isn't that we have absolutely failed. It's that the unfolding is still continuing, and what we are aiming for will come our way in a different form. And it's hard to keep in that place of faith. But my experience is that is what life is about, is understanding something much greater than us as an individual is always playing out, and always to our greater good. And having faith in that means that we can be more sanguine and more accepting when something we really, really believe we want doesn't come our way.
Yeah, and I think the other method, if you like, and I try and share this with everyone. You mentioned the Be Your Own Bestie. There's a chapter in the book called Be Your Own Bestie, and I think oftentimes we are more critical of ourselves, far more critical than we would be anyone else. So, if you do have a knockback, a setback, some doubt, an issue, a problem, then my hack for dealing with that is approach that as if it was your best friend or someone you love, a loved one that came to you with that issue, with that knockback, with that situation, and respond as if you were responding to them. Rather than, your natural sort of modus operandi might be to berate yourself and challenge yourself. Whereas if it was a loved one, then you're far more likely to draw out the positives, to be compassionate. So if you just, next time something like that comes up, imagine it's that loved one coming to you, or your best friend coming to you with that situation, and see what comes up. Because if it's different to how you would respond internally to yourself, then you need to be following the same advice you would give to that person.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a really good thing. And if anyone's got anything they want to share about that in terms of that, just drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear. And then I was just going to say, one of the things I focus on is helping women succeed in their career and their ambitions. And I find that there's definitely a gender dimension to confidence, to being hypercritical about making mistakes, about imposter syndrome, about perfectionism. And, I talk about that being about the socialization process, about how we socialize, not individuals don't socialize, society socializes women in terms of the expected roles that they should play, and men, and they're very different, and therefore different behaviors play out. Do you notice that? And I know you have an all-female leadership team, but you've had a very varied career in various places. Do you feel that there is a difference in the confidence levels according to whether it's a man or a woman?
Yeah, I think there's a natural assumption, I think, with men, or certainly what it has changed a lot. I've been of working age for over 20 years, and I think back to the early days of my career. I do think it was more difficult for women to perhaps speak up in meetings and settings. I don't recall having as many sort of female leaders back then as we've got at the moment. But I think, we can't ignore we are of different sort of genetic makeups here. And actually, I think one of the things that served me well personally is I sometimes do have quite a masculine style. Sometimes that's not served me so well, but I'm very aware, because sort of self-evaluation is quite important to me, that there are times when I have brought that sort of masculine energy to our all-female team. But in the wider context, I do think there's a sort of confidence crisis, if that's not too strong a phrase, among humanity. And I think that's at the root of some of the world's biggest problems, like climate change and war and discontent. I think it's because of a lack of confidence. So I've had lots of varied experiences over the years of not seeing women put themselves forward, and that is a source of discontent, really. And inside and outside of work, I encourage all people, of all backgrounds and genders, to really just push out your comfort zone, because I know that's where the magic happens, and I know that's where happiness lies. But it is easier said than done.
Yeah, funny enough, I've got a workshop tomorrow which is about pushing out your comfort zone. So if based on what we've talked about today, what would be, maybe one thing people could take away from this that they could go away and do to help raise their confidence more?
Well, there's an exercise in the book, actually, so I'll talk through that. So the book itself, Yabba Dabba Do It, at the end, in order to sort of consolidate and bring all of the learnings together, it is a practice. You're not going to read this book and then wake up super confident and go off, and do all the things that you've been putting off for years and years. It won't happen like that. You've really got to make it a habit, bring prepare, do and review into your lifestyle, much the same as you would with any other major lifestyle change. But there's a final challenge which brings all the fundamentals together of the learnings in the book. So it's to set yourself a goal. So it could be something huge, major, or something quite small, something that's meaningful to you that you've put off because of a lack of confidence or through doubts in previous times. So think of one thing that you've always wanted to do. It could be learn a language, could be go for a promotion, ask someone out on a date, whatever it might be, go cold water swimming, and write it down and make it real, and understand why you want it. Think about why you want to do that and why that appeals to you. And then there's 6 steps that you follow from there. So once you've made a note of what you want to achieve, set a reasonable time frame to do it in. That'll be different for everyone depending on what it is and where you're starting from. Work out what steps you need to take to get from where you are now to achieving your goal. Bit of visualization will come in there as well, because you'll see yourself going down the journey. And then at the start of each and every day, remind yourself of the goal and take whatever small action, baby steps that you can to move towards it. And then at the end of every day, congratulate yourself for any action you took that'll help you move towards it. If you haven't taken any action on a particular day, because we all have days like that, then just pledge to do it tomorrow. It's no big deal. And then finally, keep pushing forward with it. Remember that your goals will change over time and they'll meander, but that's okay. So if anyone wants a copy of those steps after this, let me know, reach out and I'll send them over. But yeah, set yourself a goal, think about the time frame, think about what you need to do to get there. And then every day, just remind yourself, what do I need to do today to get to that goal at the start of the day? And then congratulate yourself for what you've done at the end of each day.
Brilliant. Yeah. Making small progress every day leads to big results in the end, doesn't it? So yeah, that
compound effect, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And remind people, where can they get Yabba Dabba Do It?
It's Amazon published, so it's on Amazon. Yeah, just search. There's no other book of that name.
Surprisingly.
As my children will attest, yeah. So search Yabadab Do It, Sarah Foster.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Absolutely brilliant. And as I said, I admire you as a businesswoman and also as the author of a book that's really encouraging, everyone to feel more confident and that they can achieve things. So it was great. Just sharing with people where they can keep the conversation going. So at LinkedIn they can find you as Sarah Foster UK by the look of it, which is great.
Yeah.
And your company is Comply Direct, which does some great work. So if anyone's looking for a partner for sustainability work, or even just wants to understand more of Sarah's day job and what she does, please go there. And then you've also got another website which is based on some of the teachings of the book, Attitude Academy. So what would people find there and that other website?
So you can also source the book via Attitude Academy, but you'll find a series of blogs. So any particular sort of musings or thought leadership that I want to put out there that's a bit too long for a post on LinkedIn, I am active on LinkedIn, then that'll go on Attitude Academy. So there's some good stuff on there about goal setting and preparation, and just expands on the things that we've talked about today, really. But yeah, Comply Direct as well, if you're interested in finding out more about the UN Sustainable Development Goals or how you can make a difference to the planet, then I'd recommend going and looking at Comply Direct and reaching out there.
Brilliant. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And people are used to me. I'm at agentstochange.com and obviously Mary Maguire on LinkedIn as well. So thank you everyone for your time today, both those who've joined us live and those who joined the replay. Wishing you all a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.